Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are going to check out another Jurassic World Dominion release. We have another Extreme Damage release, and this time we are checking out the Genyodectes. And this is one that I've been kind of searching for a few weeks now. It's been hitting different Walmarts here throughout the United States quite frequently, so I've been kind of trying my hardest to get a hold of it right away to review it for you guys, and luckily I now have it here to do exactly that. Took me a little while to find it, but I did find it eventually, and you can definitely see that it's a really nice looking figure. Definitely looks very, very cool as far as the sculpt goes, as well as the coloration. I feel like even though it's of course not the best, it's still pretty nice looking. And then as far as the packaging goes, you've got your standard when it comes to the, usual Jurassic World Dominion releases. And then down here you can see the other figures that are in this wave of Extreme Damage figures, which I have also reviewed both of here on the channel in the past. So let's go ahead and pop this out of the box right now. Here is our Genyodectes, and it looks very, very cool. Definitely a really cool species choice on the part of Mattel to create, because it's not one that I have in my collection at all. I have zero figures of this, so I was really excited to see that they were making a figure of this species, because it's one, again, that I haven't seen from anyone in the past. And that's something Mattel has actually done quite a bit of. They've definitely given us our fair share of brand new species to enter our collections, as there are a lot of really cool ones like the Seats that, we've never seen before get figures or models of. So something Mattel can take credit for is, delivering a lot of really cool species into our collections. But again, definitely a really fun looking figure, so let's jump straight to a closer look at it right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can see straight away we have some beautiful looking scale detail, and that scale detail is incredibly crisp, incredibly vibrant on the sculpt. Might be some of the nicest looking scale detail I've seen on a Mattel figure in quite some time. You also have some pretty nice looking coloration, as we have a beautiful bluish tone here that leads up and overtakes a strong majority of the face. I really, really like the tone of blue that they've chosen for the figure. You can also see the nostrils up here at the snout. You can also see that we have some really cool crests up here on the top of the dinosaur, and we have a reddish tone that kind of runs up and over the crests, but also kind of creeps down here into the face, down into the palate, and around the nostrils and stuff, which looks really cool, adding some nice flashiness to that area. Although the blue face of the figure in general has a nice flashiness to it, you can see an alternate coloration here for the lower jaw. We have kind of like a nice light off-white, which looks pretty cool. You also have some more kind of almost like hanging skin. Sort of looks like crests on the underside, but it's like hanging skin here on the underside of the throat and lower jaw of our dinosaur. And then here on the inside of the mouth, you can see we've got a beautifully sculpted tongue, some pretty nice looking texturing in there, and you've also got some okay looking detail there on the inside of the mouth on the upper side, nothing special. The coloration unfortunately only runs here on the tongue, and then you can also see the skin here of the side of the mouth a little bit right there. Beautiful gloss coat added in there though, that's for sure. And you can see the teeth, although big and bulky looking, don't really look that great. They don't look terrible either. They're not as bad as like the newer Monolophosaurus had. Really big bulky teeth, but you can see that they're painted with kind of like a yellowish tone, like a light yellow. The eye as well has a yellowish tone, and we do actually have a black pupil, which is a huge plus, because many times recently we've been just getting kind of like weirdly colored pupils, and this time we actually have a black. And you can also see that again, the coloration is very nicely done on both sides. But looking at the teeth, the teeth are actually pretty ugly here. Look at how abrupt the curves are. They just don't really look all that great there in the mouth. Still nice looking as far as the figure goes, but the teeth, not so much. Running down here along the back of the neck, you can see we get some nice ridges. We continue to have that incredibly vibrant scale detail. I feel like a dark wash would just make all of those scales pop so nicely. You can also see a row of kind of like osteoderms here running down along the side of the neck. You can see some nice skin wrinkles and stuff here on the underside of the neck region, and then you can also see that we have this lightish tone that very briefly runs into the throat region before completely disappearing for good. We don't see that anywhere else as we move along the underside of the figure. Lots of really nice detail, just no more of that coloration. And you can also see that this bluish tone starts to kind of creep away as we run along the back of our dinosaur, and by mid-back it's pretty much tapered away completely. You can again see the ridges running here along the back, and again more of those osteoderms, as well as more of the really nice scale detail. As we lead down here into the side of the stomach, you see the extreme damage area. We've got 3 slices on this side of the figure. You've also got some pretty nice looking arm sculpts, nice muscle definition in the arms, and no painted nails, unfortunately, which is very, very common when it comes to Mattel figures, but at least the wrists are facing correctly, which is actually a pretty big plus because many times they don't when it comes to this line. As we move along, we have more of that really nice looking scale detail, very reptilian, very like lizard-like scale detail for the figure. As we move down into the thigh, again, more really nice scale detail, but you can see it actually increases in size a bit here in the thigh region. We have another splotch of that blue just randomly in that one spot of the thigh before it again is completely gone. Really big calf muscle, though. He's definitely been hitting the gym. You can see that for sure. You've got a nice kneecap and pretty nice looking foot sculpt, nice scoots down the toes, kind of like your run-of-the-mill Mattel Theropod foot sculpt, I would say. No nail paint, again, for the feet, but it doesn't look terrible. Got a nice dew claw back there as well, but also no nail paint for that either. And then as you lead up, you again have more incredibly crisp scale detail as well as some nice skin texture here for the underside, and also a pretty nice looking curve as the tail leads up and then curves back down. Also has a little bit of a tilt toward the right of the dinosaur. You can see more of those kind of osteoderms and ridges and everything as they all kind of run toward each other and meet out here on the tail. Obviously the tail's a bit too short for the figure and the proportions in general aren't perfect, but it doesn't look terrible, I guess. And then on the opposing side, you're really not going to see too much of anything different over here outside of the fact that you can see this leg is leading, whereas on the other side the leg was trailing, and we also have 2 slices over here rather than 3 like we had on the initial side, but everything else looks pretty much the same over here. We do have the Jurassic Facts app code. If we can pull this up so I can show this to you guys if you would like to add this one to your collection. There is the app code. And then we also have the extreme damage action feature, which there's a button right here to activate. And you can now see we've got some nice blood and guts on the inside of our dinosaur with a really nice red coloration and a nice gloss coat, which makes it look, again, pretty realistic overall, which is always a huge plus. It wouldn't look quite as nice as it does had they not included that gloss coat, so adding the gloss coat was definitely a great decision. But still a really, really nice looking figure overall, one that I'm very happy to add to my collection. And the coloration of it, although there's not that much paintwork to it, it does look pretty nice, and I'm actually a pretty darn big fan of the figure as a whole, so a great job done by Mattel on this one, I would say. As far as articulation goes, it's your standard, as we've got the jaw articulation. You also have neck articulation up and down, and then we can kind of turn it so it can look, pretty much both ways before crossing the street, and it can also swivel entirely if you'd like to snap the neck of our dinosaur. You've also got arm articulation forward and back, also out away from the body, leg articulation forward and back. I didn't think so, not out away from the body, just forward and back. And then you also have a little area here where you can swivel the tail, but most times it's kind of a useless area of articulation, and kind of is with this figure as well. But as far as a size goes, it's going to fit right in that standard kind of extreme damage figure size range. You're looking at about 7 3/4 inches or around the 19.5 centimeter area. And then for a height, just shy of 3 1/4 inches or a little over 8 centimeters, maybe closing in on 8.5, but not quite. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Dilophosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Genyodectes. And this is definitely a comparison that I feel like shows you exactly the size of the figure. Pretty much right there in that same similar size range for most figures of this type. But actually, for another comparison to show you that, we've got ourselves the Extreme Damage Velociraptor, and the Velociraptors are quite possibly the most common Mattel figure of all time when it comes to the Jurassic line. So I feel like pretty much everybody that's a Mattel collector should have at least one Velociraptor in their collection. And also, the fact that this is an extreme damage figure shows you again that this follows right there, again in that same similar size range of extreme damage releases. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Dominion Extreme Damage Genyodectes is definitely a very, very cool figure, and there's actually another figure of this species on its way that is not an extreme damage version, which is really cool. Sometimes we get like an extreme damage figure like the Quilmosaurus that I'm like, boy, I really hope we get one that's not extreme damage just so we don't have that kind of like injury type effect there on the side. It's cool, I do like that action feature, but I like having one that doesn't have it as well. So it's very cool to know that we will have a different version of the Genyodectes eventually. Now we just need another one of the Quilmosaurus, but This figure as a whole is very nicely done. Sculpt and detail-wise, it is phenomenal. There is so much beautiful scale detail, so much really, really vibrant scale detail. Some of the nicest, most crisp-looking detail I think I've seen on a Mattel figure. And on top of that, we have a pretty nice looking general appearance for the figure. Really flashy looking, very cool looking species chosen here by Mattel. Gorgeous coloration as well. Of course, there could always be more paintwork, like a little bit more paint to the nails and stuff like that, and just generally coloration running out further onto the tail. But as a whole, the coloration's pretty neat looking, and I love the tones of color they've chosen when it's the reddish tone, almost like a glossy red that they have up on the top, and the bluish tones. And I also really quite like the dark gray. I feel like the thing that could have improved it the most would have been maybe some more blue picking up out on the tail, maybe like stripes of the blue or something, and then the light coloration of the lower jaw running along the underside. But that really would have been, I think, the best thing that they could have done for this figure. Even without nail paint, I still feel like it could have looked pretty nice like that, because the body as a whole has a darker coloration to it, so darker looking nails kind of go with that type of a look, so it would have looked okay. But still a really nice looking paint job, just it could have been better. And definitely a pretty fun amount of articulation and a pretty cool action feature. So as a whole, this is a really cool Mattel release I definitely recommend picking up. So make sure you head to your local Walmart, grab this if you can find it, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.